How to double your productivity without burning out. In the world we live in, a world of constant notifications, endless to-do lists, and the glorifying of the hustle, it is easy to feel like you're always running, but never reaching the finish line. You are busy, yes, your calendar is full, your email inbox is overflowing, but are you truly productive? Are you moving the needle on the things that actually matter to you, to your career, to your life's ambitions? Or do you end your days feeling exhausted, drained, and with a nagging sense that for all your effort you are just treading water? If any of this sounds familiar, know that you are not alone. This is the silent epidemic of our modern age, the burnout that comes from being perpetually busy but not truly effective. We have been sold a lie. The lie is that doing more, being available 24/7, and juggling a dozen things at once is the secret to success. The truth is, that is the secret to exhaustion. This book is the antidote. It is your guide to a different way of working and living. We are going to explore a path that allows you to achieve twice as much, to produce work you can be proud of, and to do it all while reclaiming your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. This is not about magic tricks or complicated systems. It is about understanding the fundamental principles of how your brain works and aligning your actions with those principles, not against them. It is about working smarter, not just harder. It is about finding your focus in a world of distraction and protecting it fiercely. It is about learning to be incredibly productive without burning out. Before we begin our journey, I have a simple question for you. Think about your typical workday. What is the single biggest distraction that pulls you away from your most important tasks? Is it the notification sound from your phone? Is it the constant flow of new emails? Or maybe it is something else entirely. Take a moment to think about it, and please share your number one distraction in the comments below. Reading through the answers will show us all that we are fighting the same battles. Chapter 1. The Myth of Multitasking and the Power of Deep Work. Let's start by dismantling the biggest, most pervasive, and most damaging lie in the world of productivity, the myth of multitasking. We wear it as a badge of honor. We put it on our resumes. We brag about our ability to text while walking, answer emails during a video call, and listen to a podcast while writing a report. It makes us feel capable, efficient, and in demand. But what if I told you that multitasking is a fiction? What if I told you that not only is it not making you more productive, it is actively making you slower, less intelligent, and more prone to errors? What if I told you that the pursuit of multitasking is one of the primary reasons you feel so drained and burnt out at the end of the day? It sounds radical, I know, but the scientific evidence is overwhelming, and it all points to one simple conclusion. The human brain cannot multitask. It cannot focus on two complex attention-requiring tasks at the same time. What we call multitasking is in reality something very different, something far less efficient. It is called task switching. And understanding the profound costs of this constant switching is the first and most critical step toward doubling your real productivity. Imagine you are a chef in a busy kitchen. You have a pot of soup simmering on the stove, a steak searing in a pan, and vegetables that need chopping for a salad. You believe you're doing all three things at once. You are multitasking. But what are you actually doing? Your attention flits from one task to the other. You stir the soup, then you quickly flip the steak. You hear the timer and realize the steak is about to burn. You pull it off the heat. Then you turn back to the chopping board, but you have forgotten what you were doing for a split second. You reread the order ticket. Ah yes, the salad. You chop a few vegetables, then you smell the soup and rush back to turn down the heat. Each time you switch, there is a cost. There is a moment of reorientation, a mental gear shift that has to happen. You have to remember where you left off, what the next step is, and what the overall goal for that specific task was. This little moment, this mental reset, is what neuroscientists call context switching. On its own, one context switch is tiny, almost imperceptible. But over the course of a day filled with hundreds of them, the cost is astronomical. It is the silent killer of your focus, your energy, and your productivity. The term multitasking itself is a relatively new invention, and its origins tell us everything we need to know. It did not first appear in psychology textbooks or time management seminars. It was first used in the 1960s to describe the capabilities of a new computer, the IBM System 360. This computer had a single processor, much like your brain has a single center of conscious attention. It could not actually run multiple programs at the exact same moment. Instead, it was designed to switch between different tasks so quickly that it gave the illusion of doing them all at once. For decades, we have tried to apply this computer-based concept to our human brains, and we have failed miserably because we are not machines. Our brains are not designed for rapid-fire switching. When we try to force them to operate that way, we pay a heavy price. Let's look at the science. Earl Miller, a professor of neuroscience at MIT and one of the world's leading experts on attention, is unequivocal on this subject. He states that our brains are not wired to multitask well. When we think we are multitasking, we are actually just switching from one task to another very rapidly. And every time we do, there is a cognitive cost. Think of it like this. When you are focused on a single task, say writing an important email, your brain activates a specific network of neurons related to that task. When you suddenly switch to check a text message, your brain has to deactivate that email network and fire up a whole new texting network. Then, when you switch back to the email, it has to shut down the texting network and reactivate the email network. This process of shutting down and firing up is not instantaneous, and it is not clean. It takes energy and time. It is like trying to have a deep conversation with a friend, while a toddler is constantly pulling on your sleeve demanding your attention. You might catch bits and pieces of the conversation, but you will miss the nuance. Your responses will be delayed, and the whole experience will be frustrating and exhausting. Researchers at Stanford University conducted a landmark study led by the late Clifford Nass, which revealed some shocking truths about multitasking. His team compared two groups of people: chronic multitaskers, who prided themselves on their ability to juggle information, and those who preferred to focus on one thing at a time. The researchers had a simple hypothesis. The multitaskers must have some kind of mental gift. They must be better at filtering out irrelevant information or have a superior working memory. The results showed the exact opposite. On every cognitive test they ran, the heavy multitaskers performed worse. They were more easily distracted by irrelevant information. They were slower at switching between tasks, and they had worse memory organization. In Nass's own words, the research was shocking. He said that he and his team were absolutely flawed. The very people who believed they were the best at multitasking were, in fact, the absolute worst at it. It is a cruel irony. The more you try to multitask, the worse you become at the very skills needed for deep, productive work. The ability to filter, to focus, and to manage your working memory. The cost is not just a vague feeling of being frazzled. It can be measured in concrete numbers. Research from the University of London found that participants who multitasked during cognitive tasks experienced a significant drop in their IQ scores. The drop was so pronounced, in fact, that it was comparable to the cognitive decline one would experience after missing a full night of sleep or smoking marijuana. Let that sink in for a moment. When you sit at your desk with your email open, your phone buzzing, and multiple browser tabs vying for your attention, you are effectively working with a diminished brain. You are trying to solve complex problems and produce high-quality work while functioning at a cognitive level, similar to someone who is severely sleep-deprived. Is it any wonder that you make more mistakes? Is it any wonder that the report that should have taken 2 hours ends up taking all afternoon? You are not being more efficient. You are sabotaging your own intelligence. Furthermore, this constant switching creates a feedback loop of addiction within your brain. Every time you check your email or scroll through social media, your brain gets a tiny hit of the neurotransmitter dopamine. It is a novelty-seeking reward. The brain loves new information, no matter how trivial. That little buzz you feel when you see a new notification is a dopamine hit. The problem is, your brain's prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for focus, planning, and decision-making, becomes wired to seek out these quick, easy rewards. It starts to crave the distraction. This is why it can feel physically uncomfortable to focus on a single challenging task for a long period. Your brain has been trained to want the quick fix of a new email or a new like on a photo. You are not just fighting external distractions, you are fighting a deeply ingrained neurological habit. Multitasking is not just a bad habit. For many of us, it has become a functional addiction that masquerades as productivity. Breaking free from it requires a conscious and deliberate effort. It requires embracing its opposite, a state of mind that is becoming increasingly rare and therefore increasingly valuable. It is a state that author Cal Newport famously called deep work. Deep work is the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. It is a state of intense concentration where you push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. It is in this state that you produce your best work, learn complex things quickly, and generate real value. Think of a master craftsman honing a piece of wood, a scientist on the verge of a breakthrough, or a writer lost in the world of their novel. They are not checking their phones. They are not keeping one eye on their inbox. They are fully immersed, their attention completely dedicated to the task at hand. This is not a mystical state reserved for geniuses. It is a skill, and like any skill, it can be trained, practiced, and mastered by anyone. In our increasingly distracted world, the ability to perform deep work is becoming a superpower. As technology automates more and more shallow, logistical tasks, the real value in the modern economy will be created by those who can solve hard problems and create new things. And that requires the to think deeply. The psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent his career studying the state of mind he called flow. You have likely experienced it at some point in your life. It is that magical feeling when you are so absorbed in an activity that everything else seems to disappear. Time melts away. Your sense of self dissolves into the action. You are performing at your absolute peak and it feels almost effortless. This state of flow is the ultimate expression of deep work. It is where peak performance and peak experience meet. Csikszentmihalyi's research found that flow does not happen during passive, relaxing activities. It happens when you are actively engaged in a task that has clear goals, provides immediate feedback, and, most importantly, strikes a perfect balance between the level of challenge and your level of skill. The task needs to be hard enough to stretch your abilities, but not so hard that it becomes overwhelming. When you are constantly switching tasks, you are robbing yourself of the chance to ever enter this profoundly satisfying and highly productive state. The constant interruptions ensure that the challenge is always fragmented and your skills are never fully engaged. To double your productivity, you must learn to create the conditions for flow, to build a work life that allows for long, uninterrupted stretches of deep work. So how do we do it? How do we go from being a chronic multitasker, a slave to the endless stream of distractions, to a focused practitioner of deep work? It is not about willpower alone. You cannot just decide to focus harder. You have to change your systems, your habits, and your environment. You have to build a fortress around your attention. Let's get into the practical, actionable strategies. This is the how. The first and most powerful technique is called time blocking. It is the practice of scheduling your entire day, not just your appointments and meetings, but also your focused work sessions. Instead of working from a simple to-do list and reacting to whatever feels most urgent, you take a proactive approach. You look at your tasks, estimate how long they will take, and then assign specific blocks of time on your calendar to work on them. A time-blocked calendar might look like this: 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., deep work on Project X report. 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m., process emails. 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., prepare for afternoon meeting. And so on. Every minute of your workday has a job. This might sound rigid, but it is actually liberating. It removes the guesswork from your day. You no longer have to spend mental energy deciding what to work on next. The decision has already been made. All you have to do is execute. It transforms your day from a series of reactions to a series of intentions. Here is how you can start time blocking today. Step 1. At the end of your workday or first thing in the morning, identify the most important tasks you need to accomplish for the next day. Be realistic. Remember the 80-20 principle we will discuss later. Focus on the few tasks that will deliver the most value. Step 2. Estimate how long each task will take. It is crucial to be generous here. Most of us suffer from the planning fallacy. a cognitive bias that makes us underestimate the time needed to complete a task. As a rule of thumb, take your initial estimate and add 20 to 30%. If you think writing that report will take 2 hours, block out 2.5 hours. It is better to finish early than to run out of time and feel stressed. Step 3. Open your calendar and physically block out the time. Treat these blocks as you would a meeting with your most important client. They are non-negotiable appointments with your focus. Make sure to also schedule in breaks, lunch, and even buffer time for unexpected interruptions. Your day is a container, and time blocking allows you to decide exactly what you put into it. What if an interruption happens? What if your boss calls you into an unexpected meeting during a scheduled deep work block? Life happens. The plan is not meant to be a rigid cage. The goal of the plan is to provide a default to return to. If you get pulled away, simply adjust your blocks for the rest of the day. A broken plan is better than no plan at all. The second powerful technique to cultivate deep work is the Pomodoro technique. This beautifully simple time management method was developed by Francesco Cirillo in the late 1980s. The name Pomodoro comes from the Italian word for tomato, after the tomato-shaped kitchen timer that Cirillo used as a university student. The technique is built on the idea that working in short, focused sprints with planned breaks is more effective and sustainable than trying to work for hours on end. It breaks down the monumental task of working all day into small, manageable chunks. This approach is incredibly effective at overcoming procrastination and building your focus muscle. Here is how it works in 5 simple steps. 1. Choose a single task you want to work on. It is critical that you choose only one. 2. Set a timer for 25 minutes. This 25-minute interval is one Pomodoro. 3. Work on the task with absolute undivided focus until the timer rings. This means no checking email, no looking at your phone, no getting up for a coffee. If a distraction or a new idea pops into your head, quickly jot it down on a piece of paper and immediately return to your task. The rule is simple. The Pomodoro is an indivisible unit of time. You must protect it. 4. When the timer rings, put a check mark on a piece of paper and take a short break of about 5 minutes. During this break, you must do something completely unrelated to your work. Stretch, get a glass of water, look out the window. Do not use this break to check your email. That defeats the purpose, which is to give your brain a true rest. 5. After 4 Pomodoros, so after 4 check marks, you take a longer, more restorative break of 15 to 30 minutes. This cycle of focused work followed by deliberate rest trains your brain. It teaches you that you only need to focus for a manageable period, which makes it easier to start. The short breaks prevent burnout and keep your mind fresh, while the longer breaks allow for cognitive consolidation and help you maintain your energy for the entire day. You might be thinking, only 25 minutes, I can work for longer than that. That may be true, but the power of the Pomodoro technique is not just in the work interval, but in the discipline it cultivates. It forces you to respect the timer and, by extension, to respect your own attention. It trains you to resist the urge to switch tasks. As you get better, you can experiment with different intervals. Perhaps a 50-minute work session followed by a 10-minute break works better for you. The specific numbers are less important than the underlying principle. Work in focused, uninterrupted blocks, and then give your brain a real scheduled rest. This rhythm of intense focus and deliberate downtime is the key to sustainable productivity. It allows you to operate like a sprinter, giving your all for a short distance, resting, and then going again, rather than trying to be a marathon runner who maintains a slow, plodding pace all day and eventually collapses from exhaustion. The third and perhaps most crucial strategy for enabling deep work is to create a fortress of solitude. Your environment plays a massive role in your ability to focus. If you are trying to do cognitively demanding work in a space filled with distractions, you are setting yourself up for failure. You are fighting an uphill battle against your own biology. Your brain is wired to pay attention to novel stimuli. That is a survival mechanism. But in the modern office or home, this mechanism works against you. The ping of an email, the buzz of a phone, the chatter of colleagues, these are all siren songs luring your attention away from what truly matters. Building a fortress of solitude means consciously designing both your physical and digital environments to minimize these distractions. Let's start with your physical environment. Look at your desk right now. Is it covered in clutter? Old papers, random mugs, sticky notes from weeks ago? A study from the Princeton University Neuroscience Institute found that physical clutter in your surroundings competes for your attention, resulting in decreased performance and increased stress. Your brain has to expend energy to ignore the clutter, leaving less mental bandwidth for your actual work. The first step is to ruthlessly declutter your workspace. A clean, organized desk sends a signal to your brain that this is a place for focused, clear thinking. Next, consider noise. If you work in an open-plan office, noise-canceling headphones are not a luxury, they are a necessity. They are the modern equivalent of a "do not disturb" sign. Finally, signal your intentions to others. If you have a door, close it. If you do not, you can use a small sign or even just your headphones to signal to your colleagues that you are in a deep work session and should not be interrupted unless it is an emergency. You have to train the people around you to respect your focus time, and that starts with you taking it seriously yourself. Now for the digital environment, which is often the more insidious source of distraction. Our devices are designed to be addictive. App developers, social media companies, and news outlets are all in the business of capturing and holding your attention. Their business model is often directly opposed to your goal of deep work. You have to fight back. The first and most impactful action you can take is to turn off all non-essential notifications on your phone and your computer. Every single one. You do not need a banner to pop up and a sound to play every time you get a new email, a new social media mention, or a news alert. These notifications are the primary weapons of the distraction economy. Take a moment, go into your settings, and turn them off. Be ruthless. The only notifications you should allow are from actual human beings who may need to contact you urgently, like phone calls or messages from close family. Everything else is a distraction. This includes email. Email is a wonderful tool, but it has become the ultimate productivity killer for many. We leave our email client open all day, and every new message that arrives is a potential context switch. You must break this habit. The solution is to batch your email processing. Instead of checking it constantly, designate 2 or 3 specific times per day to deal with your inbox. For example, you might check it at 11 a.m. and again at 4 p.m. During those scheduled blocks, you process your email efficiently and then you close the program. You do not touch it again until your next scheduled block. This simple change is transformative. It allows you to reclaim hours of focused time that would otherwise be lost to reactive, shallow work. To manage others' expectations, you can set up an autoresponder that says something like, "Thank you for your message. In an effort to focus on my work, I am only checking emails at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. If your matter is urgent, please call me at this number." This trains people to respect your workflow and filters out the non-urgent requests. For the ultimate digital fortress, consider using website and application blockers. These are tools that you can install on your computer to prevent you from accessing distracting websites or apps for a set period. Tools like Freedom, Cold Turkey, or Self-Control allow you to create a block list of your personal digital kryptonite, whether it is social media, news sites, or online shopping. You can then schedule recurring blocks, for example, every workday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., during which you are completely locked out of these sites. This removes the need for willpower. The decision has been made for you. When your brain instinctively tries to navigate to a distracting site out of habit, the blocker will be there to remind you of your commitment to focus. It sounds extreme, but in a world engineered to distract you, you need an equally powerful defense. Finally, to make deep work a sustainable practice and truly avoid burnout, you must learn to end your workday properly. For many of us, the workday never truly ends. We bring our work home in our minds. We ruminate on unsolved problems. We worry about the next day's to-do list, and we mentally check our email long after we have left the office. This attention residue from our work bleeds into our personal time, preventing us from ever truly resting and recharging. The solution is to create a shutdown ritual. This is a consistent set of actions you perform at the end of every workday to signal to your brain that the day is over. It helps you transition from your work self to your home self. A shutdown ritual can be very simple. It might consist of 3 steps. First, take 2 minutes to review your email inbox to ensure there are no truly urgent fires that need to be put out. Second, transfer any uncompleted tasks from your mind or from scattered notes onto a concrete, trusted list for tomorrow. This is a crucial step that counteracts what psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency for our brains to get stuck on incomplete tasks. By writing it down, you are giving your brain permission to forget about it until tomorrow. Third, look at your calendar and your task list for the next day and get a clear plan of what you will be working on. Once this ritual is complete, you say a consistent phrase out loud, something like, "Shutdown complete." This verbal cue acts as a powerful psychological trigger, telling your brain that it is now safe to disengage from work-related thoughts. This simple 15-minute routine can be the difference between an evening of restless work-related anxiety and an evening of genuine relaxation and presence with your loved ones. It is the final piece of the puzzle, ensuring that your commitment to intense work is balanced by an equal commitment to true rest. Embracing these principles is a journey. You will not become a deep work master overnight. You will get distracted. You will fall back into old habits. That is okay. The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. Start small. Try a single Pomodoro session today. Block out just 1 hour of your day tomorrow for uninterrupted focus. Turn off just your social media notifications. Each small victory will build your capacity for focus. It will prove to you that you are capable of controlling your attention. You have within you the power to be extraordinarily productive, to create work that you are immensely proud of, and to do it in a way that energizes you rather than depletes you. The world will not stop trying to distract you. Your phone will keep buzzing, your inbox will keep filling up. But you do not have to be a victim of this digital noise. You can choose to be the architect of your attention. You can choose to dismantle the myth of multitasking in your own life. You can choose to cultivate the superpower of deep work. It is the single most important skill for thriving professionally and personally in the 21st century. Your journey to doubling your productivity without burning out starts right here with this choice. Choose focus. Choose depth. Choose to take back control of your time and your mind. Chapter 2. Your body, your brain's fuel. The surprising link between health and productivity. In our relentless quest for productivity, we often look for solutions outside of ourselves. We buy the latest apps, read the newest time management books, and reorganize our calendars a dozen different ways. We treat our minds like software that can be optimized with the right code, and we treat our bodies like an inconvenient piece of hardware that just has to be dragged along for the ride. We sacrifice sleep for a few more hours of work, grab a sugary snack for a quick energy boost, and tell ourselves we are too busy to exercise. We have it all backward. We have been trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of sand. The single greatest productivity tool you will ever own is not an app or a system. It is your own body, your brain, the very organ responsible for every thought, every idea, and every decision you make, is a biological machine. It requires fuel, it requires maintenance, and it requires rest. To ignore its physical needs while demanding peak mental performance is like expecting a world-class race car to win the Grand Prix while filling its tank with water and never changing the oil. It is not just foolish. It is a recipe for a breakdown. This chapter is about shifting your perspective. It is about understanding that taking care of your physical well-being is not a distraction from your work. It is the very foundation of it. The time you invest in sleep, nutrition, and movement is not time lost. It is a high-yield investment in your cognitive capital. It is the secret to having more energy, sharper focus, better memory, and greater resilience against stress and burnout. We are going to move beyond the vague advice to be healthy and dive into the specific science of how your body fuels your brain. We will explore the non-negotiable role of sleep in learning and memory, the direct impact of the food you eat on your ability to concentrate, and the almost magical power of physical movement to boost your creativity and mood. These are not chores to be added to your to-do list. These are the levers you can pull every single day to fundamentally upgrade your mental hardware. If you are serious about doubling your productivity, you must first get serious about fueling your brain. Let us begin by exploring the most underrated, most misunderstood, and most powerful performance enhancer known to humankind: a good night's sleep. We live in a culture that treats sleep as a luxury, or worse, a sign of weakness. We hear phrases like, "I will sleep when I am dead," or "rise and grind," and we internalize the message that sleep is for the unmotivated. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor, a testament to our hard work and dedication. This is, without exaggeration, one of the most destructive and counterproductive beliefs in our modern world. Sleep is not a passive state of inactivity. It is an intensely active and critically important biological process. When you are asleep, your brain is working tirelessly on your behalf, performing essential maintenance tasks that are simply impossible to carry out during the waking hours. To consistently shortchange your sleep is not a sign of a strong work ethic. It is a sign of a profound misunderstanding of how your own mind works. It is the biological equivalent of trying to write a brilliant novel on a computer that is never ever shut down for updates or a defragmentation cycle. Eventually, it will slow down, it will start making errors, and it will crash. To understand why sleep is so crucial, we need to look at what is happening inside your head after you close your eyes. One of the most important processes is memory consolidation. Throughout your day, you are constantly learning new things and having new experiences. This information is initially stored in a part of your brain called the hippocampus, which acts as a kind of short-term, limited-capacity inbox. It is great for holding information temporarily, but it is not built for long-term storage. During the deep stages of sleep, your brain replays the neural patterns of the day's experiences, transferring important memories from the vulnerable inbox of the hippocampus to the vast, secure hard drive of your neocortex. This is how learning sticks. It is how skills are solidified. You can practice a new presentation or study for an exam for hours, but it is during sleep that the information is truly integrated and becomes a stable, accessible part of your knowledge base. Cutting your sleep short is like meticulously organizing files on your desk all day, only to have a janitor come in and throw half of them away before you have had a chance to put them in the filing cabinet. All that effort, wasted. But that is not all. Your sleeping brain is also performing a vital cleaning service. Every day, as your brain cells work hard, they produce metabolic waste products, a kind of cellular garbage. One of these waste products is a protein called beta amyloid. In the waking hours, this protein accumulates in the spaces between your brain cells. Scientists have discovered that there is a special network of channels in the brain, which they have named the glymphatic system. This system acts as the brain's waste clearance pathway. And here is the critical part. The glymphatic system is about 10 times more active when you are asleep than when you are awake. During sleep, your brain cells actually shrink by about 60%, widening the channels between them and allowing cerebrospinal fluid to rush in and flush out all the accumulated metabolic debris, including that beta amyloid. This is quite literally a brainwashing. If you do not get enough quality sleep, this cleaning process is incomplete. The toxins remain. Over a single night, this can lead to that feeling of mental fog and sluggishness we call brain fog. Over the long term, the chronic accumulation of beta amyloid is strongly linked to a higher risk of developing devastating neurological conditions, including Alzheimer's disease. So when you prioritize sleep, you are not just investing in your productivity for tomorrow. You are investing in your long-term brain health for decades to come. What happens when we ignore these fundamental needs? The consequences are not subtle. A vast body of research has documented the devastating impact of sleep deprivation on cognitive performance. Matthew Walker, a professor of neuroscience and psychology at the University of California, Berkeley, and the author of the groundbreaking book Why We Sleep, has dedicated his career to studying this. His research shows that after just one night of sleeping only 4 to 6 hours, your cognitive performance can decline as if you had not slept at all for 2 or 3 days. Your ability to pay attention plummets. Your reaction times slow down dramatically. Your logical reasoning and problem-solving abilities are severely impaired. In fact, After being awake for 19 hours, you are as cognitively impaired as someone who is legally drunk. Think about that. The executive who pulls an all-nighter to finish a presentation is showing up to that meeting with the mental capacity of someone over the legal alcohol limit. Would you trust that person to make a critical business decision? The impact is particularly severe on a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. This is the sophisticated human part of your brain, located right behind your forehead. It is the chief executive officer of your mind, responsible for higher-order functions like planning, decision-making, emotional regulation, and impulse control. When you are sleep-deprived, the prefrontal cortex essentially goes offline. It becomes sluggish and disconnected. At the same time, the more primal emotional parts of your brain, like the amygdala, become hyperactive. The amygdala is your brain's alarm center, responsible for generating strong emotional reactions like fear and anger. Without the calm, rational oversight of the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala runs wild. This is why when you're tired, you are more likely to be irritable, emotionally reactive, and pessimistic. A small setback feels like a catastrophe. Constructive feedback feels like a personal attack. You lose your ability to regulate your emotions, which is devastating not only for your own well-being, but also for your relationships with colleagues and loved ones. A lack of sleep does not just make you tired, it makes you a less intelligent, less effective, and less emotionally stable version of yourself. The evidence is all around us. Studies of medical residents working long sleepless shifts have shown a 300% increase in preventable medical errors that lead to a patient's death compared to residents on a more reasonable schedule. In the world of transportation, sleepiness is a factor in hundreds of thousands of car crashes every year. Even major industrial disasters, such as the Chernobyl nuclear meltdown, the Exxon Valdez oil spill, and the Challenger space shuttle tragedy, have had sleep deprivation identified as a significant contributing factor in the official investigations. The message from the science is crystal clear. Sleep is a non-negotiable biological necessity. It is a fundamental pillar of our physical, mental, and emotional health, and therefore a fundamental pillar of our productivity. It is time to stop viewing sleep as an enemy to be conquered and start treating it as the ultimate performance-enhancing practice that it is. The question then becomes, how do we do it? How do we reclaim our sleep in a world that seems designed to steal it from us? The answer lies in cultivating what experts call good sleep hygiene. This is about creating the habits, routines, and environmental conditions that are conducive to high-quality, restorative sleep. The single most important principle of good sleep hygiene is regularity. Your body runs on an internal 24-hour clock known as the circadian rhythm. This rhythm governs countless bodily processes, including your sleep-wake cycle. It thrives on consistency. To improve your sleep, the most effective thing you can do is to go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time every single day. Yes, that includes weekends. It might be tempting to sleep in until noon on a Saturday to catch up on lost sleep, but this can do more harm than good. It is like giving your brain a dose of jet lag every weekend. It confuses your internal clock, making it much harder to wake up on Monday morning and get back into a rhythm. Find a wake-up time that works for your life and stick to it 7 days a week. Your body will thank you by learning to anticipate sleep and wakefulness, making it easier to fall asleep at night and wake up feeling refreshed in the morning. The second crucial factor is light. Light is the primary signal that sets your internal clock. Getting exposure to natural sunlight within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking up is incredibly powerful. It sends a strong signal to a part of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is the master controller of your circadian rhythm. This morning light effectively says, the day has begun, shut down melatonin production, and start the clock. This not only helps you feel awake and alert during the day, but it also helps to time the release of melatonin later that night, making you feel sleepy at the right time. Conversely, you must manage your light exposure in the evening. The blue light emitted by our phones, tablets, computers, and even energy-efficient light bulbs is particularly disruptive to sleep. It tricks your brain into thinking it is still daytime, suppressing the release of melatonin, the hormone that helps you sleep. To protect your sleep, you need to create a digital sunset. An hour or two before your scheduled bedtime, turn off all screens. If you absolutely must use a device, install a blue light filtering app or wear blue light blocking glasses. Dim the lights in your home. This period of relative darkness signals to your brain that the day is ending and it is time to start preparing for sleep. Next, consider your environment. Your bedroom should be a sanctuary for sleep, and only sleep, with one other exception. It should not be your office, your movie theater, or your dining room. This helps your brain to create a strong association between your bed and sleep. 3 environmental factors are key: temperature, noise, and light. Your body's core temperature needs to drop by a couple of degrees to initiate and maintain sleep. For this reason, the ideal temperature for a bedroom is surprisingly cool, typically between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 15 to 19 degrees Celsius. A bedroom that is too hot is one of the most common disruptors of quality sleep. When it comes to noise, the goal is a quiet, consistent soundscape. If you live in a noisy environment, consider using a white noise machine or a fan to mask disruptive sounds. Finally, your bedroom should be as dark as possible. Even small amounts of light from a street lamp or an electronic device can interfere with your sleep. Invest in blackout curtains and cover or remove any electronics with glowing lights. Your goal is to create a cool, quiet, and dark cave that signals to every cell in your body that it is time for deep rest. What you put into your body also has a profound impact on your sleep. 2 of the biggest culprits are caffeine and alcohol. Caffeine is a stimulant that works by blocking the receptors for a chemical called adenosine, which builds up in your brain throughout the day and creates sleep pressure, making you feel tired. The problem is that caffeine has a very long half-life, which is the time it takes for your body to eliminate half of the drug. The average half-life of caffeine is 5 to 6 hours. This means that if you have a cup of coffee at 3 hours p.m., by 8 p.m., half of that caffeine is still circulating in your system, actively blocking your sleep drive. To protect your sleep, it is wise to establish a strict caffeine curfew. For most people, this means avoiding all caffeine after 12 p.m. or 2 p.m. at the latest. Alcohol is another common sleep disruptor. Many people use it as a sleep aid, believing it helps them relax and fall asleep faster. While alcohol is a sedative and can indeed make you feel drowsy initially, it wreaks havoc on your sleep architecture later in the night. It particularly suppresses REM sleep, the stage of sleep that is critical for emotional regulation and creative problem-solving. It also tends to cause you to wake up in the second half of the night as your body metabolizes it. A night of alcohol-induced sleep is not a night of restorative rest. Finally, create a relaxing wind-down routine. You cannot expect your brain to go from 100 miles per hour to 0 in an instant. You need a transition period. A consistent pre-sleep routine acts as a powerful psychological cue, signaling to your brain and body that it is time to begin the process of shutting down. This routine does not need to be complicated. It could be 30 to 60 minutes of relaxing activities performed in the same order every night. This might include taking a warm bath or shower, which can help to lower your core body temperature when you get out. It could involve some light stretching or gentle yoga. Reading a physical book, one that is not too stimulating, is a classic and effective choice. Journaling can be incredibly powerful for calming a racing mind, allowing you to offload your worries and to-do lists onto a page so your brain does not have to ruminate on them all night. Listening to calm music or a guided meditation can also be very effective. The specific activities are less important than the consistency of the routine. It is a form of self-care that pays massive dividends in the form of deep, restorative sleep, which in turn fuels a more productive, focused and energized you the next day. Just as a high-performance car needs the right kind of fuel, your brain requires high-quality nutrition to operate at its peak. The food you eat is broken down into the very building blocks that create your brain cells, fuel your neurons, and synthesize the neurotransmitters that govern your mood, focus, and motivation. We often think of food in terms of its effect on our physical body, our weight, and our energy levels. But every single bite you take also has a direct and profound impact on your cognitive function. Eating for productivity is not about restrictive dieting or counting every calorie. It is about understanding the simple principles of how certain foods can either supercharge your brain or leave it running on fumes. It is about making conscious choices to provide your mind with the steady, reliable source of premium fuel it needs to perform the complex work you demand of it every day. The single most important concept to understand when it comes to eating for brain power is blood sugar stability. Your brain is an incredibly energy-hungry organ. Despite making up only about 2% of your body weight, it consumes roughly 20% of your daily calorie intake, primarily in the form of glucose, which is a type of sugar. However, your brain does not have a way to store this fuel. It requires a constant, steady supply from your bloodstream. When you eat foods that are high in refined sugar and simple carbohydrates, like a sugary donut, a piece of white bread, or a can of soda, your body rapidly converts them into glucose. This causes a sharp spike in your blood sugar levels. You might feel a brief rush of energy and focus, but this spike is quickly followed by a crash. Your pancreas releases a large amount of insulin to deal with the sugar overload, which causes your blood sugar to plummet. This is the dreaded sugar crash or afternoon slump. You suddenly feel foggy, irritable, and unable to concentrate. Your brain is literally being starved of its primary fuel source. This roller coaster of blood sugar spikes and crashes is devastating for sustained focus and productivity. The key, therefore, is to choose foods that provide a slow, steady release of glucose into your bloodstream, giving your brain the consistent energy it needs to stay sharp all day. The foundation of a brain-healthy diet is built on complex carbohydrates, lean proteins, and healthy fats. Complex carbohydrates found in foods like whole grains, oats, brown rice, quinoa, beans, and vegetables are your brain's best friend. Because they are high in fiber, your body breaks them down slowly, leading to a gentle, sustained release of glucose. This means no sharp spikes and no subsequent crashes. It is the difference between lighting a log that burns steadily for hours versus throwing a piece of paper on the fire that flares up brightly for a moment and then disappears. Protein is also crucial. It is broken down into amino acids, which are the precursors to your brain's neurotransmitters. For example, the amino acid tyrosine is needed to produce dopamine and norepinephrine, which are critical for focus, motivation, and alertness. Good sources of lean protein include fish, chicken, eggs, Greek yogurt, lentils, and tofu. Healthy fats, particularly omega-3 fatty acids, are perhaps the most important structural component of your brain. Your brain is nearly 60% fat, and a large portion of that is an omega-3 fatty acid called DHA. DHA is a critical component of your brain cell membranes, helping them to stay fluid and communicate effectively with each other. A diet rich in omega-3s has been linked to better memory, improved mood, and a lower risk of cognitive decline. The best sources of these essential fats are fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines, as well as walnuts, flax seeds, and chia seeds. Beyond these macronutrients, certain foods are packed with micronutrients that act as powerful brain boosters. Berries, particularly blueberries, are often referred to as brain berries for a good reason. They are packed with antioxidants called flavonoids, which have been shown to improve communication between brain cells, reduce inflammation, and enhance learning and memory. Dark leafy greens like spinach and kale are rich in nutrients like vitamin K, lutein, and folate, all of which support brain health. Nuts, especially walnuts, are another brain-boosting powerhouse, providing a fantastic combination of healthy fats, antioxidants, and vitamin E. And do not forget about the simple power of hydration. Your brain is about 75% water. Even mild dehydration can impair your cognitive function, leading to problems with memory, attention, and mood. You do not need to overthink it. Simply keeping a water bottle on your desk and sipping it throughout the day is one of the easiest and most effective things you can do for your brain. Aim to drink enough so that you rarely feel thirsty and your urine is a light pale yellow color. Putting this into practice is about making simple, sustainable swaps. For breakfast, instead of a sugary cereal or a pastry that will set you up for a mid-morning crash, opt for a bowl of oatmeal with berries and walnuts or scrambled eggs with a side of whole wheat toast. This combination of complex carbs, protein, and healthy fats will provide you with steady energy for hours. For lunch, avoid heavy carb-laden meals that can lead to post-meal drowsiness, often called a food coma. Instead of a big plate of pasta or a greasy burger, choose a large salad with grilled chicken or salmon, or a bowl of lentil soup. This will nourish your brain without weighing you down. For snacks, instead of reaching for the candy bar or bag of chips from the vending machine, plan ahead and bring brain-friendly options with you. A handful of almonds, an apple with peanut butter, a small container of Greek yogurt, or even a small piece of dark chocolate can provide the perfect pick-me-up to get you through the afternoon slump without the subsequent crash. The goal is not perfection. It is about consistently making the choice that will best serve your brain and your energy levels. Every meal is an opportunity to fuel your focus or to sabotage it. The choice is yours. The final pillar of our physical foundation for productivity is movement. In our modern, knowledge-based economy, we tend to think of work as a purely mental activity, something that happens from the neck up. We sit in chairs, staring at screens for 8, 10, or even 12 hours a day. We see our bodies as mere transport systems for our brains. This sedentary lifestyle is not only damaging to our physical health, leading to a host of chronic diseases, but it is also profoundly detrimental to our cognitive function. Your mind and your body are not separate entities. They are intricately connected. To have a sharp, focused, and creative mind, you must have a body that moves. Regular physical activity is one of the most powerful things you can do to enhance your brain's performance, boost your mood, and build your resilience against stress. It is not about becoming a marathon runner or a bodybuilder. It is about rediscovering the simple, transformative power of moving your body every single day. When you exercise, you're doing so much more than just working your muscles. You're giving your brain an incredible boost. First, physical activity increases blood flow to the entire body, including the brain. This means more oxygen and more vital nutrients are delivered to your brain cells, allowing them to function more efficiently. Think of it as upgrading the plumbing to your brain's power plant. But the benefits go much deeper. One of the most exciting discoveries in neuroscience in recent decades is that exercise can actually stimulate the birth of new brain cells, a process called neurogenesis. This happens primarily in the hippocampus, the same brain region we discussed earlier that is so crucial for learning and memory. Exercise triggers the release of a powerful protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Scientists often refer to BDNF as miracle grow for the brain. It helps to protect existing neurons and encourages the growth of new ones, literally making your brain bigger and better at learning and remembering information. Furthermore, exercise has a profound effect on your brain's chemistry. It triggers the release of a cocktail of powerful neurotransmitters that enhance your mood and focus. Endorphins, which are responsible for the feeling often called a runner's high, are natural painkillers and mood elevators. Dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin are also released during and after exercise. These are the very same neurotransmitters that are targeted by many medications used to treat depression and ADHD. They play a critical role in regulating your mood, motivation, and ability to pay attention. This is why a short walk can be such a powerful antidote to a mental block or a bad mood. It is not just a placebo effect. You are literally changing your brain chemistry in a way that promotes a more positive and focused state of mind. Regular exercise is one of the most effective anti-anxiety and antidepressant strategies available, with the wonderful side effect of also improving your physical health. The wonderful news is that you do not need to spend hours at the gym to reap these cognitive benefits. The key is consistency and finding forms of movement that you actually enjoy. One of the most effective strategies is to incorporate short bursts of activity throughout your workday. We talked in the last chapter about the Pomodoro technique, working in 25-minute sprints with short breaks. These breaks are a perfect opportunity for what are sometimes called exercise snacks. Instead of using your 5-minute break to scroll through your phone, stand up and do some jumping jacks, run in place, do a few push-ups, or simply walk around your office or home. A study from Stanford University found that walking, either indoors or outdoors, can boost creative output by an average of 60%. The act of walking engages your body and allows your mind to wander, making novel connections and generating new ideas. The next time you feel stuck on a problem, the best thing you can do is not to stare harder at your screen, but to get up and go for a walk. Integrating movement into your life is about changing your mindset. See movement not as a chore, but as an opportunity. Start your day with a short workout. It does not have to be a long, grueling session. Even 15 to 20 minutes of activity, like a brisk walk, a quick yoga routine, or a bodyweight circuit, can set a positive tone for your entire day, boosting your energy and focus for hours to come. Look for opportunities to be more active in your daily routine. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Park your car a little further from the entrance. If you have a meeting that does not require a screen, suggest making it a walking meeting. You will find that the change of scenery and the physical activity can lead to more creative and productive conversations. The goal is to combat the negative effects of a sedentary life by weaving movement into the fabric of your day. Every step counts. Every stretch counts. It all adds up to a healthier body and a sharper, more productive brain. As we conclude this chapter, I want you to truly let this sink in. The journey to doubling your productivity does not begin with a new app. It begins with your next night of sleep. It begins with your next meal. It begins with your next decision to get up and move your body. These are not separate from your real work. They are the very inputs that determine the quality of your output. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot expect a depleted body and an exhausted brain to produce brilliant work. By honoring your biological needs, by treating sleep as sacred, by fueling your body with nutrient-dense food, and by embracing the joy of movement, you are not being selfish or lazy. You are being strategic. You are laying an unshakable foundation upon which all your other productivity efforts can be built. You are upgrading your own operating system. So I challenge you, do not just read these words, put them into action. Tonight, create a wind-down routine and prioritize getting a full night of sleep. Tomorrow, start your day with a brain-boosting breakfast and go for a walk at lunchtime. Pay attention to how you feel. Notice the clarity in your thinking, the stability in your mood, the endurance of your energy. This is not a quick fix. This is a lifestyle. It is the sustainable path to achieving more than you ever thought possible, not by pushing yourself to the brink of collapse, but by nourishing yourself from the inside out. This is how you build a productive life that not only feels successful but also feels good. Chapter 3: The 80-20 Principle and the Art of Strategic Laziness. We have spent the last 2 chapters building our foundation. We have learned how to conquer distraction and cultivate deep, focused work. We have discovered how to fuel our brains for peak performance through sleep, nutrition, and movement. We have, in essence, fine-tuned our engine and filled our tank with premium fuel. Now we arrive at a critical question. We have all this power, all this focus, all this energy. Where do we point it? It is a question that stumps so many of us. We sit down at our desks, ready to work, and we are faced with an endless to-do list, a deluge of emails, and a dozen competing priorities all screaming for our attention. So we do what seems sensible. We start at the top and we work our way down. We try to do it all. We answer every email, attend every meeting, and tick off every minor task, believing that if we are constantly busy, we must be productive. We believe that effort is a direct measure of results. And at the end of a 10-hour day, we collapse, exhausted from the sheer volume of our activity, yet with a nagging feeling that we did not actually accomplish anything that truly mattered. This is the tyranny of the to-do list, the trap of busyness. It is a trap because it is based on a fundamentally flawed assumption. The assumption is that all tasks are created equal, that every item on your list carries the same weight. This could not be further from the truth. In every area of our lives, both professional and personal, a small number of inputs are responsible for the vast majority of the outputs. A few key tasks create most of the value. A few critical relationships bring most of the joy. A few core habits produce most of the well-being. The secret to doubling your productivity is not to do more things. It is to identify this vital few, this critical minority of high-leverage activities, and to focus your finely tuned energy and attention exclusively on them, while ruthlessly eliminating, delegating, or minimizing everything else. This chapter is about learning to see your world through this lens. It is about shifting your mindset from one of busyness to one of effectiveness. we will explore one of the most powerful mental models ever discovered for achieving more with less, the 80-20 principle. We will then learn a simple, practical framework, the Eisenhower matrix, for applying this principle to your daily tasks. And finally, we will embrace a concept that may sound radical, but is essential for sustainable success: the art of strategic laziness. It is time to stop confusing motion with progress. It is time to learn how to achieve exponential results by doing less, but doing what matters. The story of the 80-20 principle begins, strangely enough, in a garden. In the late 19th century, an Italian economist named Vilfredo Pareto was observing his pea plants. He noticed something interesting. A small number of his pea pods, roughly 20%, were producing the vast majority, about 80% of the healthy peas. Being an economist, this sparked his curiosity. He wondered if this imbalanced pattern existed in other areas. He began to study wealth distribution in Italy and found, to his surprise, a very similar pattern. He discovered that approximately 80% of the land in Italy was owned by just 20% of the population. He investigated other countries and other time periods and found the same lopsided relationship over and over again. This observation, that a small number of inputs tend to create a large majority of the outputs, became known as the Pareto principle, or more commonly, the 80-20 principle. For decades, it remained a relatively obscure observation in the field of economics. It was not until the mid-20th century that a business consultant named Joseph Juran, the father of the quality management revolution, stumbled upon Pareto's work and realized its profound and universal implications. Juran called it the principle of the vital few and the trivial many. He used it to help companies transform their quality control, showing them that 80% of their product defects were typically caused by just 20% of the production problems. By focusing their efforts on fixing that vital 20%, they could achieve massive improvements with minimal effort. Since then, the 80-20 principle has been found to be an uncannily accurate descriptor of the relationship between cause and effect in almost every field imaginable. In business, you will often find that 80% of your profits come from 20% of your customers, or that 80% of your sales come from 20% of your products. In software development, 20% of the bugs cause 80% of the system crashes. In your own life, you probably wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. You likely spend 80% of your quality social time with just 20% of the people you know. The numbers 80 and 20 are not magical or exact. Sometimes the ratio is 90-10 or 70-30. The core idea is what matters. The relationship between input and output is rarely, if ever, balanced. A profound imbalance is the natural state of the universe. This is not just an interesting trivia fact. It is a revolutionary insight that, once truly understood and applied, can completely transform the way you approach your work and your life. It is the ultimate antidote to the cult of busyness. It teaches us that most of what we do makes very little difference. Only a few things truly matter. The path to extraordinary productivity lies not in managing your time better, but in managing your energy and attention better by focusing it squarely on that vital few. The problem is that our brains are not naturally wired to think this way. We have a bias toward action and a desire for completion. We love the feeling of crossing items off a to-do list, no matter how trivial they are. Answering 20 small emails can feel more productive than spending 3 hours making progress on a single, difficult, high-impact project. The 20 emails give us 20 little dopamine hits of accomplishment. The single project offers only a distant, delayed gratification. The 80-20 principle forces us to fight this instinct. It demands that we stop and ask ourselves some hard questions before we dive into our work. It asks us not, how can I get all these things done? But rather, which one or two of these things, if I do them exceptionally well, will make the biggest positive impact on my goals? It is a shift from a linear, volume-based approach to a strategic, results-based approach. So how do we find our vital 20%? It begins with a process of ruthless analysis and reflection. You must become a detective in your own work life, constantly searching for the clues that point to high-leverage activities. Let's get practical. Take out a piece of paper or open a document. At the top, write down your main professional goal for this quarter. Maybe it is to increase sales by 10%, to get a promotion, or to successfully launch a new project. Now, below that goal, list all the tasks and activities you spend your time on in a typical week. Be honest and exhaustive. Include everything from writing reports and attending meetings to answering emails and browsing industry news. Now, go through that list, item by item, and ask yourself this critical question for each one. How much does this activity directly contribute to achieving my main goal? You can even give each task a score from 1 to 10. What you will almost certainly find is that a small handful of activities have scores of 8, 9, or 10, while the vast majority are down in the 1 to 4 range. Those high-scoring items, that is your 20%, those are the tasks that represent your greatest point of leverage. Let's use an example. Imagine you are a salesperson. Your list of activities might include prospecting for new leads, nurturing existing client relationships, creating sales presentations, internal team meetings, filling out CRM reports, and responding to miscellaneous emails. When you analyze these tasks against your goal of increasing sales, a clear pattern emerges. Prospecting for new leads and nurturing your top existing clients are likely your 9s and 10s. These activities directly generate revenue. Creating a great sales presentation is also high leverage, maybe an 8. But what about the internal team meetings that often devolve into rambling conversations, maybe a 3? And the meticulous, time-consuming process of filling out every single field in the CRM report, perhaps a 2, and the endless stream of non-client emails, a 1. The 80-20 analysis reveals that you should be structuring your entire week to maximize the time you spend prospecting and nurturing clients. These are your golden hours. Everything else is secondary. The goal is to redesign your work to protect and expand the time you spend on these vital few activities, while minimizing, automating, or delegating the trivial many. This leads to the second and equally important part of applying the 80-20 principle, learning to consciously neglect, delegate, or eliminate the trivial 80%. This is often the hardest part because it requires us to say no. It requires us to set boundaries and to be comfortable with letting small things slide. For the salesperson in our example, this could mean declining an invitation to a non-essential internal meeting with a polite note. Thank you for the invitation. In order to focus on my Q3 sales targets, I won't be able to make it, but please send me the key takeaways. It could mean finding a more efficient way to handle CRM reports, perhaps by using a template or blocking out just 15 minutes at the end of the day to fill in only the most essential information. It could mean, as we discussed in Chapter 1, batching all non-urgent emails into 2 specific windows per day, freeing up the rest of the day for high-value sales activities. It is about understanding that every yes to a low-value activity is, by default, a no to a high-value one. There are only so many hours in the day. The 80-20 principle is not about creating more time. It is about making better, more strategic allocations of the time you already have. It is about having the courage to ignore the non-essential, so you can give your full attention to the things that will truly move the needle. This is not about being lazy or unhelpful. It is about being a professional who understands where their true value lies and who protects their ability to deliver that value. While the 80-20 principle gives us a powerful strategic lens through which to view our work, we still need a tactical tool to help us manage our daily tasks and priorities. We need a system to help us distinguish between what feels urgent and what is truly important. This is where the Eisenhower matrix comes in. This simple but incredibly effective decision-making framework is attributed to Dwight D. Eisenhower, the 34th President of the United States. As a 5-star general and the supreme commander of the Allied forces in Europe during World War II, Eisenhower was a master of productivity and decision-making. He had to constantly juggle an immense number of tasks, from planning military campaigns to managing international diplomacy. His guiding principle was famously quoted by him: "I have 2 kinds of problems, the urgent and the important. The urgent are not important and the important are never urgent." This insight forms the basis of the matrix, which helps you categorize your tasks based on these two criteria: urgency and importance. The matrix is a simple square divided into 4 boxes or quadrants. The horizontal axis represents urgency, from urgent on the left to not urgent on the right. The vertical axis represents importance, from important on the top to not important on the bottom. Every single task on your to-do list can be placed into one of these 4 quadrants, and each quadrant comes with a clear directive for how to handle the tasks within it. Quadrant 1 in the top left is for tasks that are both urgent and important. These are the crises, the pressing problems, and the deadline-driven projects. This is the Do Now quadrant. Examples might include a major client crisis, a project with an immediate deadline, or a medical emergency. You have to deal with these tasks immediately. While some Q1 tasks are unavoidable, the goal of an effective person is to spend as little time as possible in this quadrant. A life lived constantly in Quadrant 1 is a life of stress, firefighting, and burnout. You are always reacting, never proactively planning. The key to shrinking Quadrant 1 is to spend more time in Quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 in the top right is the heart of effective personal management. This is the quadrant for tasks that are important but not urgent. This is where real progress happens. Activities in Quadrant 2 include long-range planning, building relationships, proactively looking for new opportunities, learning new skills, and, crucially, exercise, proper nutrition, and rest. This is the quadrant of deep work, strategic thinking, and prevention. It is the work that, if you do it consistently, prevents things from ever becoming crises and ending up in Quadrant 1. For example, consistently maintaining your car, a Q2 activity, prevents the car from breaking down on the highway, a Q1 crisis. Consistently building strong relationships with your clients, Q2, prevents them from becoming unhappy and creating a crisis, Q1. The most productive and successful people spend the majority of their time and energy on Quadrant 2 activities. This requires discipline and proactivity because the tasks in this quadrant do not scream for your attention. There is no immediate deadline attached to read a book to improve your skills or take your spouse on a date. You have to schedule them, protect the time for them, and treat them as the most critical appointments in your week. This is where the time blocking we discussed in Chapter 1 becomes so powerful. You use it to make firm commitments to your Q2 priorities. Quadrant 3 in the bottom left is what I call the quadrant of deception. It is for tasks that are urgent but not important. These tasks are the biggest drains on our productivity because they feel important, but they are not. They are the interruptions, the unnecessary reports, and many of the emails and meetings that fill our days. They are often important to someone else, but they are not important to our goals. This is the ringing phone, the colleague who stops by your desk with a quick question, the email notification that pulls you out of a state of flow. The directive for this quadrant is to delegate. If you have a team, these are the perfect tasks to delegate. If you do not, you must learn to push back politely, to automate where possible, or to find ways to minimize the time you spend on them. For example, instead of letting a colleague's quick question turn into a 30-minute conversation, you could say, "I am in the middle of something right now, but I have some time scheduled to go over things like this at 3 p.m. Can we talk then?" This respects their need while protecting your focus. Mastering Quadrant 3 is about learning to say no with grace and defending your time from the urgent but unimportant demands of the world. Finally, Quadrant 4, in the bottom right, is for tasks that are neither urgent nor important. This is the quadrant of waste. It is the home of mindless web browsing, scrolling through social media, and other trivial time wasters. The directive for this quadrant is simple: delete. Be ruthless in identifying and eliminating these activities from your workday. This is where the app and website blockers we discussed earlier can be an invaluable tool. It is important to distinguish Quadrant 4 activities from the genuine restorative rest we will discuss next. Q4 is mindless escape. True rest is intentional rejuvenation. To put the Eisenhower matrix into practice, make it a daily or weekly habit. Take your full to-do list and sort every single item into one of the 4 quadrants. This simple act of categorization brings immense clarity. It immediately shows you where you should be focusing your energy. You will quickly see how many of your tasks are actually Q3 distractions masquerading as important work. The goal is to consciously shift your focus. Handle your Q1 tasks, schedule and prioritize your Q2 tasks, delegate or minimize your Q3 tasks, and eliminate your Q4 tasks. By consistently using this matrix, you move from being a reactive firefighter to a calm, proactive architect of your life. You stop letting the urgent dictate your days and start letting the important guide your life. This brings us to our final and perhaps most liberating concept in this chapter, the art of strategic laziness. The very phrase might sound like a contradiction, an oxymoron. In our culture, laziness is a dirty word. It is associated with sloth, apathy, and a lack of ambition. But we are not talking about the unproductive laziness of Quadrant 4, the kind that involves avoiding your responsibilities and wasting your life away. We are talking about strategic laziness, the conscious, intentional, and scheduled practice of doing nothing. It is the recognition that rest, idleness, and unstructured downtime are not the opposite of work, but an essential component of it. It is the art of working smarter, not harder, by understanding that your brain's best work often happens when you are not actively working at all. For too long, we have operated under a factory model of productivity. We believe that to produce more, we must simply put in more hours. We see the brain as a machine that can be run continuously, and we believe that any time not spent in a state of effort is time wasted. Modern neuroscience has shown this model to be completely, utterly wrong. Your brain has two primary modes of operation. The first is the task-positive network, which is active when you are engaged in focused, goal-oriented work, the kind of deep work we discussed in Chapter 1. The second is the default mode network, which becomes active when you are not focused on a specific external task. This is the network that lights up when you are daydreaming, taking a shower, going for a walk in nature, or just staring out a window. For a long time, scientists thought this was just the brain's idle state. But they have since discovered that the default mode network is incredibly important. It is during this state of rest that your brain connects disparate ideas, consolidates memories, makes sense of your experiences, and generates your most creative and insightful aha moments. Have you ever been stuck on a difficult problem, racking your brain for a solution, only to have the perfect answer pop into your head while you're doing something completely unrelated, like cooking dinner or driving? That is your default mode network at work. When you are intensely focused on a problem, your thinking can become rigid and constrained. By stepping away and letting your mind wander, you allow your brain to access its vast repository of information and make novel connections in the background. Strategic laziness is about intentionally creating the time and space for this process to occur. It is about understanding that constant, relentless focus is counterproductive. It leads to mental fatigue, burnout, and a lack of creativity. To be truly effective, you need to build a rhythm of intense work and deliberate rest into your life. So, how do you practice strategic laziness? First, you must schedule it. Just as you time block your deep work sessions, you must block out time on your calendar for intentional downtime. This might be a 20-minute walk in the middle of the day with no phone and no podcast. It could be a scheduled do-nothing hour on your weekend. It is about treating rest with the same seriousness and importance as your most critical work projects. Second, learn the difference between true rest and distraction. Mindlessly scrolling through social media is not rest. It is a form of shallow stimulation that still consumes cognitive resources. True rest involves disengaging from goal-oriented tasks. Reading a novel, listening to music, spending time in nature, meditating, or simply sitting quietly with a cup of tea are all forms of strategic laziness. One of the most powerful forms of strategic laziness is the power nap. A short nap of 20 to 30 minutes has been scientifically shown to improve alertness, enhance performance, and boost mood. It is a powerful tool for combating the natural afternoon dip in our circadian rhythm. Another powerful practice is the digital Sabbath, the act of taking one full day a week, or even just a half day, completely offline. No email, no social media, no screens. This practice can feel uncomfortable at first, but it is an incredible way to reset your brain, reduce anxiety, and allow yourself to be fully present in the non-digital world. It provides the deep cognitive rest that is so necessary for high-quality thinking. By combining these three ideas, we create a powerful, holistic system for effectiveness. The 80-20 principle gives you the clarity to identify what truly matters. It is your strategic compass. The Eisenhower matrix gives you the tactical framework to manage your daily actions based on that strategy. And the art of strategic laziness provides the essential fuel of rest and recovery that allows you to execute on your most important priorities with energy and creativity over the long term. This is the path out of the trap of busyness. It is about realizing that your goal is not to be the person who gets the most things done. Your goal is to be the person who gets the most important things done. It requires a radical shift in thinking, a willingness to challenge the cultural narrative that glorifies a frantic, unsustainable pace. It requires the courage to say no, the discipline to focus on the vital few, and the wisdom to embrace rest as an indispensable part of your work. You have the power to stop being a hamster on a wheel, running faster and faster, but going nowhere. You have the power to become a strategic operator, one who applies their energy with precision and intelligence to achieve extraordinary results, all while living a more balanced, sustainable, and fulfilling life. The choice is yours. Choose effectiveness over busyness. Choose what matters. Chapter 4. Hacking your environment and your mind. We have now laid the most important groundwork for our productivity revolution. We have shattered the illusion of multitasking and embraced the profound power of deep, focused work. We have committed to fueling our brains with the holy trinity of well-being: restorative sleep, nourishing food, and revitalizing movement. We have armed ourselves with the strategic wisdom of the 80-20 principle and the tactical clarity of the Eisenhower matrix, learning to distinguish the vital few from the trivial many. We have, in effect, built a high-performance engine. But even the most powerful engine is useless if it is sitting in a garage filled with junk, trying to navigate a road full of potholes with a driver who is constantly second-guessing themselves. This is the reality for so many of us. We try to implement these new habits and mindsets, but we do so within environments, both external and internal, that are actively working against us. Our physical workspace is a minefield of distractions. Our digital world is a vortex of designed addiction, and our internal world, our own mind, is often a landscape of self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and unhelpful mental chatter. This chapter is about taking control of these environments. It is about becoming a conscious architect of your surroundings and a gentle curator of your own thoughts. We will learn that your environment is not just a passive backdrop to your life. It is an active participant that is constantly shaping your behavior, your mood, and your ability to focus. We will move beyond simply resisting distraction and learn how to design a physical and digital world that actively promotes concentration and flow. Then, we will turn our attention inward to the most important environment of all, the one between your ears. We will discover that hacking your mind is not about complex psychology, but about implementing simple, scientifically proven techniques to overcome procrastination, build better habits, and cultivate a mindset of resilience and growth. This is the next level of our journey. It is about creating a seamless alignment between your goals and the world you inhabit, both inside and out. When your environment supports your intentions, the need for brute force willpower begins to melt away, and productivity becomes not a struggle, but a natural consequence of how you have chosen to live and work. Let's begin with the world you can see and touch, your external environment. The power of our surroundings to influence our behavior is one of the most well-documented but frequently ignored principles of human psychology. The concept is known as environmental design or choice architecture. The simple idea is that you can dramatically increase the likelihood of a desired behavior by making it the path of least resistance and decrease the likelihood of an undesired behavior by making it more difficult. If you want to eat more fruit, you do not just try to remember to eat fruit. You put a beautiful bowl of fresh fruit on your kitchen counter, where you will see it every time you walk by. If you want to watch less television, you do not just rely on willpower. You take the batteries out of the remote and put it in a drawer in another room. You add a little bit of friction to the bad habit and remove the friction from the good one. This is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of intelligence. It is about working with your human nature, not against it. We are going to apply this same powerful principle to designing a workspace that makes focus the easy choice and distraction the difficult one. First, let us address your physical workspace, the command center for your productive efforts. Your brain is a powerful association machine. Over time, it learns to associate certain places with certain activities. This is why sleep experts tell you to only use your bed for sleeping. It creates a powerful neurological link that when your head hits the pillow, it is time to shut down. The same principle applies to your work. If you consistently work from your couch, your brain starts to associate the couch with both work and relaxation, and it becomes proficient at neither in that space. You will find yourself trying to relax but thinking about work, and trying to work but feeling the pull of relaxation. To the greatest extent possible, you need to create a dedicated space that is exclusively for deep, focused work. This does not have to be a separate room. It can be a specific corner of a room, or even just a particular chair at the dining table. The key is consistency. When you enter that space, it is a signal to your brain. It is time to focus now. All other activities, like scrolling social media, eating, or making personal calls, should happen elsewhere. You are creating a sacred space for concentration. Now let's optimize that sacred space. The single most impactful environmental factor for cognitive performance is light. We are biological creatures who evolved outdoors. Our bodies and brains are deeply attuned to the natural cycles of light and dark. Access to natural sunlight has been shown in countless studies to improve mood, increase energy levels, and enhance focus. One study by the Interdepartmental Neuroscience Program at Northwestern University found that office workers with more light exposure in their workspace had longer, higher quality sleep, more physical activity, and a better reported quality of life compared to workers with less light exposure. If you have any control over where you work, position your desk near a window. Let the natural light pour in. It will not only improve your performance during the day, but also help to regulate your circadian rhythm, leading to better sleep at night, creating a virtuous cycle of energy and focus. If you are stuck in a windowless space, you can simulate the benefits by investing in a full-spectrum desk lamp or a light therapy box that mimics the properties of natural daylight. The goal is to send your brain the clear, energizing signal of daytime. Next, we must confront the enemy of a clear mind: clutter. That pile of papers on the corner of your desk, those old coffee mugs, the tangled cables, they are not just physically messy, they are mentally messy. The Princeton University Neuroscience Institute study we touched upon earlier confirmed what we all intuitively know. They found that when your environment is cluttered, the visual chaos competes for your brain's limited attentional resources. Your brain has to actively work to ignore the visual noise, which leaves less mental energy available for the task at hand. Clutter is, in effect, a form of chronic, low-level distraction. It is a visual representation of unfinished business that constantly pulls at your focus. The solution is to become a minimalist in your workspace. Your desk should contain only the essential tools you need for the task you are currently working on. Everything else should be out of sight. A simple practice to maintain this is the end-of-day clear-out. Take the last 5 minutes of your workday to put everything away, wipe down your desk, and reset your space for the next day. Arriving at a clean, clear, and inviting workspace in the morning is a powerful psychological boost that sets a positive, focused tone for the entire day. Another powerful technique is the one-touch rule. When you pick up a piece of paper or open a file, decide what to do with it right then and there. Either act on it, file it away, or throw it out. Do not just put it back on the pile to be dealt with later. This prevents the accumulation of clutter before it even starts. Let us not forget the machine your brain is housed in, your body. If your body is uncomfortable, it becomes another source of distraction. Ergonomics, the science of designing your environment to fit your body, is not a luxury. It is a productivity imperative. A sore back, a strained neck, or aching wrists are constant signals of discomfort that sap your energy and your focus. Take a few moments to assess your setup. Is your monitor at eye level so you do not have to hunch or crane your neck? Is your chair adjusted so that your feet are flat on the floor and your knees are at a roughly 90-degree angle? Are your keyboard and mouse positioned so that your wrists are straight and your elbows are bent at a comfortable angle? These small adjustments can make a world of difference in your physical comfort, which directly translates into your mental endurance. An investment in a good chair or an external monitor is not an indulgence. It is an investment in your ability to perform sustained, comfortable and focused work for years to come. While we are designing our physical space, we must also consider our digital space, which for many of us is where we spend the majority of our time. Your computer's desktop is the digital equivalent of your physical desk, and the same principles apply. A desktop cluttered with dozens of random files, old downloads, and application shortcuts is just as distracting as a pile of papers. It creates visual noise and mental friction every time you have to search for something. Take the time to create a simple, logical folder system for your documents. Tidy up your desktop, keeping only the absolute essentials. Create a clean, minimalist digital environment that promotes a feeling of calm and control. This philosophy extends to your web browser, which is arguably the greatest portal to distraction ever invented. The temptation to open just one more tab is a constant battle. You can fight back by adopting a one-tab policy, where you discipline yourself to only have the tab open that is related to your current task. For a more robust solution, consider using browser extensions that limit the number of tabs you can have open or that actively block distracting websites during your scheduled deep work blocks. Another powerful strategy is to create separate user profiles or even use different browsers entirely for different modes of work. You could have one browser profile that is stripped down with no social media bookmarks or personal logins used exclusively for deep work. Another profile could be for your personal browsing. This separation creates a psychological boundary, making it less likely that you will drift from a work task into a spiral of mindless browsing. This entire process of environmental design is about making your desired behaviors automatic. You are not relying on your limited reserves of willpower to stay focused. Instead, you are creating a world in which focus is the default setting. The friction has been removed from the path of concentration, and friction has been added to the path of distraction. You have built yourself a fortress of focus, a physical and digital sanctuary where your best work can emerge. But no fortress is impenetrable if the commander inside is in a state of chaos. That brings us to the most critical environment we need to hack: our own mind. Our internal environment, the landscape of our thoughts, beliefs, and habits, is the ultimate determinant of our productivity and well-being. You can have the perfect office, the ideal schedule, and the most important goals, but if your mind is plagued by procrastination, self-doubt, and a lack of focus, you will still struggle. The good news is that we can design our internal environment just as consciously as our external one. We can install new mental software that makes it easier to start tasks, overcome challenges, and maintain a positive, resilient attitude. One of the most powerful pieces of mental software you can install is a technique developed by psychologist Peter Gollwitzer called implementation intentions, which is more simply known as if-then planning. The concept is remarkably simple, but profoundly effective. It is a way of pre-programming your brain to handle specific situations. Instead of a vague goal like, "I will work out more," an implementation intention specifies the exact cue and the exact response. It takes the form of, if situation X arises, then I will perform response Y. So, the vague goal of "I will work out more" becomes the concrete plan. If it is 5:30 p.m. and my workday is finished, then I will immediately change into my gym clothes and drive to the gym. This simple linguistic trick is like writing a line of code for your brain. It creates a strong automatic link between the situational cue, the if, and the desired behavior, the then. Why is this so much more effective than willpower alone? It is because it offloads the need for in-the-moment decision-making. When 5:30 p.m. rolls around, you no longer have to debate with yourself. You do not have to summon the motivation to decide to go to the gym. The decision has already been made. Your brain simply recognizes the cue and executes the pre-planned routine, It makes your desired habits automatic. The research on implementation intentions is staggering. Hundreds of studies have shown that using this simple if-then structure can double or even triple the chances that a person will stick to their goals, whether it is for exercise, healthy eating, studying, or even taking vitamins. It is a powerful tool for overcoming the most common productivity killers. Let us look at how you can apply it. For procrastination, a common problem is simply starting your most important task of the day. You can create the plan. If it is 9 a.m. and I have sat down at my desk, then I will immediately open the document for my most important project and work on it for one Pomodoro session. This bypasses the hemming and hawing and gets you started. For dealing with distractions, you could create a plan like, if I feel the urge to check my social media during a deep work block, then I will take a deep breath and write down the urge on a piece of paper, and then immediately return my focus to my task. This gives you a pre-planned response to the internal cue of craving a distraction. For overcoming setbacks, you could plan, if I receive critical feedback on my work, then I will take a moment to thank the person and remind myself that this is an opportunity to learn and improve. This helps to short-circuit the defensive, emotional reaction and replace it with a more constructive one. Take a moment to think about your biggest productivity challenges. What are the specific situations that throw you off track? Now create a simple if-then plan for each one. You are essentially creating a playbook for your future self, giving them the exact instructions they need to succeed when the inevitable challenges arise. While if-then planning helps us to direct our actions, there is a deeper layer to our internal environment that we must address: our self-talk. We all have a voice in our head, an internal narrator that is constantly commenting on our lives. For many of us, this narrator is not a supportive coach. It is a harsh, relentless inner critic. It is the voice that tells you, you are not smart enough for this, you are going to fail, you should have done better, or everyone else is so much more successful than you are. This constant stream of negativity creates a hostile internal environment. It is like trying to do your best work while a bully is standing over your shoulder, whispering insults in your ear all day. This inner critic drains your motivation, erodes your confidence, and makes you terrified of taking risks or making mistakes. To be sustainably productive, you must learn to manage this voice. The first step is to simply become aware of it. Start to notice the tone and the content of your self-talk. When you make a mistake, what is the first thing you say to yourself? When you face a new challenge, what does the voice in your head tell you? Simply observing this voice without judgment begins to lessen its power. It allows you to see that the voice is not you, and its pronouncements are not objective truth. They are just habitual, often negative, thought patterns. The next step is to consciously challenge and reframe the inner critic statements. You can even give your inner critic a name, something slightly silly like Gremlin George or Nervous Nelly. This helps to externalize it and create some distance. When the voice pipes up with, "You will never be able to finish this huge project," you can respond internally. "Thanks for your input, George, but that is not a helpful thought right now. I am just going to focus on the very next step." You can also practice a technique from cognitive behavioral therapy called reframing. This involves taking a negative thought and looking for a more balanced, realistic, and helpful way to view the situation. The thought, "I completely failed that presentation," can be reframed as, "That presentation did not go as well as I had hoped. What can I learn from the experience to do better next time?" This is not about empty positive thinking. It is about shifting from a destructive, self-critical perspective to a constructive, learning-oriented one. It is a practice of self-compassion, of learning to treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer to a good friend who was struggling. This leads us to the final and most profound hack for our internal environment: cultivating a growth mindset. This concept, pioneered by Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck, is one of the most important psychological discoveries of our time. Dweck's research revealed that people tend to hold one of two core beliefs about their own abilities and intelligence. The first is the fixed mindset, the belief that your talents and intelligence are innate, fixed traits. You have a certain amount and that is it. The second is the growth mindset, the belief that your abilities can be developed through dedication, effort, and learning. You might have a natural starting point, but your true potential is unknown and unknowable, and it can be expanded through your actions. These two mindsets create radically different internal worlds. A person with a fixed mindset sees every challenge as a test of their innate ability. If they struggle or fail, they interpret it as evidence that they are simply not good enough. As a result, they tend to avoid challenges, give up easily in the face of setbacks, and feel threatened by the success of others. They are afraid of looking dumb, so they stick to what they already know they can do well. Their internal environment is one of fear, judgment, and limitation. A person with a growth mindset, on the other hand, sees challenges not as threats, but as opportunities to learn and grow. They believe that effort is the path to mastery. When they encounter a setback or a failure, they do not see it as a verdict on their abilities. They see it as valuable feedback, information they can use to improve their strategy. They are inspired by the success of others, seeing it as proof of what is possible. Their internal environment is one of curiosity, resilience, and possibility. It is easy to see which mindset is more conducive to productivity, especially the kind that involves tackling the important, non-urgent tasks of Quadrant 2. These tasks are often challenging and require learning new skills. A fixed mindset will shy away from them, while a growth mindset will embrace them. The exciting news from Dweck's research is that your mindset is not fixed. You can consciously choose to cultivate a growth mindset. The first step is to learn to hear your fixed mindset voice. It is the voice that says, "What if you fail? You will be a failure," or "This is too hard. I am not smart enough." When you hear this voice, you can recognize it and talk back to it with a growth mindset voice. You can say, "I am not sure I can do it now, but I think I can learn to with time and effort." Or most successful people had failures along the way. It is a part of learning. Another powerful technique is to focus on process and effort rather than just outcomes. Instead of only praising yourself for getting a good result, learn to praise yourself for the effort you put in, for the strategies you tried, and for what you learned, regardless of the outcome. This reinforces the idea that your actions and your learning are what truly matter. Finally, actively seek out challenges. See your work not just as a series of tasks to be completed, but as a training ground for your skills. When you reframe your work in this way, every difficult project, every piece of critical feedback, and every mistake becomes a valuable part of your growth journey. By cultivating a growth mindset, you are transforming your internal environment from a place of judgment into a place of learning. You are becoming a person who is not afraid to stretch, to try, and to grow. This is the ultimate key to unlocking your potential and achieving a level of productivity and fulfillment that a fixed mindset could never imagine. Hacking your environment, both external and internal, is about creating a total system that supports your highest goals. It is about understanding that you are not just a passive victim of your circumstances or your thoughts. You are a creator. You have the power to design a workspace that fosters focus, to install mental habits that drive action, and to cultivate a mindset that embraces growth. When you align your outer world with your inner world, you create an unstoppable momentum that carries you toward your goals not with struggle and strain, but with a sense of flow and purpose. Chapter 5. Sustainable Productivity. The marathon, not the sprint. We have come a long way on this journey together. We have built our productivity system from the ground up, piece by piece. We started by tearing down the false idol of multitasking and learning to consecrate our time for deep, meaningful work. We then built a powerful physical foundation, recognizing that our bodies are not separate from our minds and that sleep, nutrition, and movement are the essential fuel for our cognitive fire. From there, we sharpened our strategic focus with the 80-20 principle and the Eisenhower matrix, learning to direct our newfound energy toward the things that truly matter. And most recently, we have become conscious architects of our world, hacking our external and internal environments to make focus and growth the path of least resistance. We now have all the tools, the strategies, and the mindsets we need to be incredibly productive. But there is one final crucial piece of the puzzle we must put into place. It is the piece that ensures that our success is not a fleeting, short-lived burst of activity followed by a spectacular crash, but a steady, enduring, and deeply fulfilling way of life. This final chapter is about sustainability. It is about shifting our perspective from that of a sprinter to that of a marathon runner. A sprinter gives their all for 100 meters, a furious explosion of effort that is impossible to maintain. A marathon runner, on the other hand, understands the art of pacing. They know that to finish the race, they must find a rhythm of effort and recovery that can be sustained over the long haul. In our work and in our lives, we are not running a 100-meter dash. We are running a marathon. The goal is not to have one phenomenally productive week that leaves you so exhausted you cannot function for the next two. The goal is to create a system that allows you to perform at a high level, day in and day out, year after year, without sacrificing your health, your relationships, or your joy. This is the true meaning of doubling your productivity without burning out. It is about creating a powerful rhythm of work and rest, developing systems for continuous improvement, and ultimately, connecting all your efforts to a deeper sense of purpose. This is how we ensure that our productivity is not just effective, but also enduring and meaningful. The first principle of sustainable productivity is to fundamentally misunderstand the relationship between work and rest. Our culture tends to view them as a dichotomy, as opposites in a zero-sum game. We believe that time spent resting is time not spent working, and therefore time wasted. We see rest as something we earn only after we have pushed ourselves to the point of complete exhaustion. This is a deeply flawed and dangerous way of thinking. As we've touched on throughout this book, modern science has revealed that rest is not the opposite of work. It is an essential and active partner to it. High-quality work and high-quality rest are not enemies. They are two sides of the same coin. You cannot have one without the other. To perform at your peak, you must learn to rest at your peak. We have already discussed the power of short breaks with the Pomodoro technique, but let us now zoom out and look at the larger biological rhythm that governs our energy and focus throughout the day. In the 1950s, sleep researcher Nathaniel Kleitman, the same scientist who discovered REM sleep, also discovered that our bodies operate on cycles not just at night but during the day as well. These are called ultradian rhythms. Just as we cycle through different stages of sleep at night, we cycle through different stages of energy and alertness during the day. For most people, these cycles last for about 90 to 120 minutes. We can maintain a state of high focus and energy for about 90 minutes, but after that our brain needs a period of rest and recovery, typically about 20 minutes, to clear out metabolic waste, consolidate information, and recharge for the next cycle. What do most of us do? We ignore this natural rhythm. When we feel our focus starting to wane after about 90 minutes of work, we do not see it as a biological signal to rest. We see it as a failure of discipline. So we fight it, we power through, we chug another cup of coffee and force ourselves to keep staring at the screen. This is the equivalent of a weightlifter, trying to do an endless set without ever putting the weights down. You might be able to keep going for a while, but your form will get sloppy, you will become less effective, and you will dramatically increase your risk of injury. When you push past your natural ultradian trough, you're not being productive. You are just burning yourself out. You are borrowing energy from your future self, and that debt always comes due with interest. Sustainable productivity means learning to work in harmony with these natural rhythms, not against them. It means honoring the 90-minute work block as a sacred sprint, and then honoring the 20-minute break as an equally sacred period of recovery. What constitutes a good break? The key is that it must be a true disengagement from work. Checking your email, scrolling through work-related news, or even having a conversation about a work project is not a real break. You are still keeping your brain in the task-positive network. A truly restorative break involves shifting your physical and mental state. Stand up, move your body. We have already talked about the cognitive benefits of walking. A short walk during your ultradian break is one of the most powerful things you can do. Get some sunlight if you can. Change your visual scenery by looking out a window. Rehydrate with a glass of water. Connect with a colleague about something non-work related. Practice a few minutes of mindfulness or deep breathing. Listen to a favorite song. The goal is to give your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for focus and executive function, a chance to go offline and recharge. When you return to your work after a true break, you will find that your focus is sharper, your thinking is clearer, and your creativity is renewed. By embracing this rhythm of intense 90-minute sprints, followed by 20-minute recovery periods, you can achieve far more in a day with less mental strain than you ever could by trying to work for 8 hours straight. You are managing your energy, not just your time. This principle of rhythmic rest extends beyond the daily cycle. We also need to build in periods of rest on a weekly and even an annual basis. This is where the practice of a digital Sabbath becomes so powerful. In our hyper-connected world, our brains are almost never truly offline. The constant influx of information from our devices keeps our nervous systems in a state of low-grade, chronic stress. Taking one day a week, or even just a half day, to completely disconnect from all screens can feel like a revelation. It is an opportunity for your mind to truly rest and for your default mode network to work its creative magic. It is a chance to be fully present in your own life, with your family, in nature, or with your hobbies. It can feel uncomfortable at first, plagued by the fear of missing out, but the benefits in terms of reduced anxiety, improved sleep, and a profound sense of mental clarity are immense. Similarly, taking a real vacation, one where you truly unplug from work, is not a luxury. It is an essential part of a sustainable, productive career. You return from a real vacation, not just rested, but with a renewed sense of perspective and creativity that is impossible to find when you are buried in the day-to-day grind. While these rhythms of rest are essential for maintaining our energy, we also need a system to ensure that our efforts are pointed in the right direction over the long term. It is easy to get so caught up in our daily tasks that we lose sight of the bigger picture. We can become very efficient at climbing the ladder, only to realize years later that the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. To avoid this, we need a regular practice of reflection and planning that keeps us aligned with our most important goals. This practice is the weekly review. It is the keystone habit that locks all the other principles of this book into place. It is your weekly meeting with yourself, the CEO of your life and career. The weekly review, a concept popularized by productivity expert David Allen, is a scheduled block of time, typically 60 to 90 minutes at the end of your week, where you step back from the chaos of doing and enter a state of calm, objective reflection. It is your command center, the place where you process the past week, organize the present, and plan for the week ahead. A consistent weekly review habit provides 3 incredible benefits. First, it gives you peace of mind. By systematically processing all your loose ends, your emails, your notes, your mental to-do lists, you ensure that nothing falls through the cracks. This clears your head and allows you to truly relax over the weekend, knowing that everything has been captured and organized. Second, it provides clarity and control. By reviewing your goals and priorities, you can design your upcoming week with intention, ensuring that you are proactively scheduling your important Quadrant 2 activities rather than just reacting to the urgent demands of Quadrant 3. Third, it facilitates continuous improvement. By reflecting on what went well and what did not, you can learn from your experiences and make small, intelligent adjustments to your system each week. Here is a simple 3-part framework for your own weekly review. The first part is get clear. Your goal here is to gather all the stuff that has accumulated over the week and process it. This means getting your email inbox to 0. It means collecting all the random notes you have jotted down on paper or in apps. It means doing a mind sweep, where you take a few minutes to write down anything that is on your mind, any open loops, worries, or ideas. You process each item one by one, deciding what it is and what the next action is. The second part is get current. Here you review the past week. Look at your calendar. What appointments did you have? What meetings did you attend? Review your completed tasks. What did you accomplish? What did you learn? What were your biggest wins? What were your biggest challenges? This is not about judgment. It is about objective review and learning. You also review your ongoing project lists and your long-term goals to ensure they are still relevant and to track your progress. The final and most powerful part is get creative. This is where you look ahead and design your next week. Look at your calendar for the upcoming week and identify any appointments or commitments. Then, based on your review of your goals, ask yourself the most important question. What are the 1 to 3 most important things I need to accomplish next week to move my goals forward? These are your weekly priorities, your big rocks. Once you have identified them, you go to your calendar and, using the principle of time blocking, you schedule non-negotiable appointments with yourself to work on these priorities. This is how you translate your high-level goals into concrete actions. You are not just creating a to-do list, you are creating a success plan for your week. Making this weekly review a non-negotiable ritual, perhaps every Friday afternoon, is one of the highest leverage habits you can possibly build. It is the system that ensures you are not just being busy, but being effective week after week. As you implement these systems and rhythms, it is crucial to adopt a mindset of experimentation. This book is not a rigid set of rules that must be followed to the letter. It is a buffet of principles and techniques. Your job is to become the scientist of your own productivity. Treat each strategy as an experiment. For 1 week, try the Pomodoro technique, exactly as described. Does it work for you? Does it increase your focus? Maybe you find that a 50-minute work block followed by a 10-minute break is a better fit for the kind of work you do. Great. That is a successful experiment. For another week, experiment with your sleep schedule, going to bed 30 minutes earlier. How does it affect your energy and mood? Keep a simple journal to track your experiments and your observations. What are your peak energy times during the day? When are you most creative? When are you best suited for shallow administrative tasks? By paying attention to your own data, you can move beyond generic advice and start building a deeply personalized productivity system that is perfectly tailored to your unique biology, personality, and type of work. You are, in essence, creating your own personal user manual. This mindset of continuous improvement, of making small incremental adjustments over time, a concept the Japanese call Kaizen, is the key to long-term mastery. We have now assembled the complete system for doubling your productivity without burning out. We have the focus, the fuel, the priorities, the environment, the habits, and the systems for sustainable performance. But there is one final question we must ask ourselves, a question that gives meaning to all of this effort. Why? Why do you want to be more productive? Productivity for its own sake is a hollow and unfulfilling pursuit. Simply getting more things done is not a worthy life goal. The ultimate purpose of all these strategies is not just to optimize your work, but to enrich your life. It is to free up your time and your mental energy so that you can invest them in the things that truly matter to you. What is all this reclaimed time and focus for? Is it to be able to leave work at 5 p.m. every day, guilt-free, and be fully present with your children? Is it to create the space in your life to finally start that business you have been dreaming about? Is it to have the energy and freedom to learn a new skill, to travel, to contribute to your community, or to simply have more time for quiet contemplation and joy? Your why is the ultimate fuel. It is what will motivate you to stick with these new habits when you feel tired or fall off track. Take some time to connect with your deeper purpose. Write it down. Keep it somewhere you can see it every day. When you link your daily actions of time blocking, eating a healthy lunch, or conducting a weekly review to this larger, meaningful vision for your life, these actions are no longer chores. They become acts of devotion to the life you want to create. This is the final and most important secret. Productivity is not the end goal. It is a tool. It is a powerful tool that you can use to design a life of focus, freedom, and deep fulfillment. It is about getting the important things done so that you have more life to live. I hope the ideas and strategies in this book have provided you with a clear roadmap to do just that. The journey starts now with the very next choice you make. Choose to honor your need for rest. Choose to focus on one thing at a time. Choose to do the important work first. Choose to create an environment that supports you. And choose to do it all not as a mad dash to an imaginary finish line, but as a sustainable, joyful, and lifelong marathon. If this journey has resonated with you, and you are eager to continue exploring ways to enhance your focus, elevate your performance, and build a more intentional life, then I invite you to continue the conversation with us. The principles we have discussed here are the beginning of a much larger exploration into the art and science of living well, and I would be honored to have you join our community as we learn and grow together.